Hi, and welcome to Affinity for Planner Creators. My name is Tracy, and today we're going to look at shapes. So there's some basic shapes that are used in most planners, reading journals, and things like that. And we're just going to look at some of the very basic ones. But here we have a note paper with what looks like a piece of tape holding it on. We have this circle and this circle. These are the exact same circles, except on this one we've added a stroke, they call it. Same with this box and this box. Exact same boxes, but this one has a stroke and this one doesn't. These are our little stars, and the same thing goes with this box and this box. This one has a stroke. This one just has a thicker stroke. So we're going to create these one by one. So what you need to do is go up to File and go to New. And when this pops up, it should be under Layout. And we're going to be working in inches. And we want to make this 15 by 9 so that you have the same one that I'm working with. And we're going to come up, just because it's a habit for me to change my DPI to my highest one. We do not want facing pages. We want to change the color to RGB 32. We want it to be at the highest color level. We don't need margins, so you can untick this box. And we don't need a bleed, and it doesn't have any on it, so we're good. So just click Create. So now we have a blank canvas to work on. So let's start with the sticky note with the tape. What you're going to do is you're going to go to your tools on your left-hand side, and we're going to go down to the rectangle tool. Now, this could look like any shape, but it's right below the pen tip tool. So click on this, and we want the rectangle tool. Now, as I always do with everything, I make sure my grid is turned on so you can see the grid, and I come up to View, and I go to Grid and Axis, and I go to Basic, and I put in 0.125. That gives us a tiny little box to work, little boxes to line up against, and it makes it very crisp and clean. So we have our rectangle tool selected. So we're going to start with our rectangle, and I'm going to pick a corner here to make sure it's got the green and the red arrow, or green line going up and down and the red line going horizontal. And I'm just going to drag out what looks like to be about the size of a sticky note. Now I'm going to click off of that, and I'm going to hit the letter V so I can move it down a little bit, because we've got to have room for our tape. But if you see the horizontal red lines and the vertical green lines, that means we're lined up correctly on the grid. So you can just release that. Now the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to add a color. So we can come up here to the Fill tool and click on that. And I have swatches, and I'll show you how to do that in another video. But let's make this one kind of a medium pink. So we're going to click on this. And you're still going to be able to see the grid line, but that's okay. That's just for our reference for creating. It's not going to show up in your finished product. So we have our pink note. Now we want to use the same rectangle tool. So let's go back over here and click on it. And we want to make a tiny one, about like that. And because we used pink, that's what it's going to show up as. But I'm going to tilt it just a little. And then I'm going to click off and hit V to get back to my Move tool. Then I'm just going to put it over the top of the note. Now, I want to change this to a lighter pink. So while you still got it highlighted, let's go up here to the Fill tool. And let's give it this very light pink at the top. Now, if you click off of it, you've got this pink look. You can give it any color, and just for being able to see it better, let's go with, where's my pastels? Let's click on this to highlight it again, and let's give it a yellow. And you can also change the opacity of it. So if you want it to be a little lighter so that the sticky note shows through, let's drop it down to somewhere around 70, 68, 70. Now if you click off, it's too light. So let's click back on. And let's bump it up to about 90, 95, something like that. So there we have our sticky note. Now this one that I created in this one here, I put a shadow on it that you can see right down here. So let's put a shadow on this one we're making. So you're going to click on that box, and you're going to go over to the right hand side and down towards the bottom, and you're going to see a capital FX. That's your layer effects. That's how you change the looks of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an outer shadow. We're going to click in the box because we want it to show up on our picture. And then we're going to click on the word outer shadow, and that gives us the box to adjust here. So for mine, I kind of have a standard that I use, and I leave it at 50%. And then in the radius, I do it at about 32.6. In the offset, which is where it's going to come off on the top or the bottom, the right, the left, I put the offset at 34.5. Just hit enter. So now you can see it's coming off of this side and the bottom. And then for the intensity, I don't want it too intense, so I'm going to put it at about 25. And then it's at 315, that's 315 degrees. That's bringing it off this side and here. If you move this around, if you'll watch that shadow, it moves as you go around. So you can place it wherever you want to, but I do want it at 315. So at that point, you can just close it. So now we have our sticky note. As for our circles, we're going to go back to our rectangle tool right below the pen tip, and we're going to do an ellipse. And that's just a circle. So we're going to start at roughly the top of the sticky note, and we're going to drag down till it's the same height as that. Now, if you will look in the numbers, the little box that's off to the side of my cursor, it says width 3.125 and the height is 3.250. So we're going to remember the height, 3.250, because we want this to be perfectly round. So we have 3.25, and this is 3.125. So we're just going to change this one to 3.25. Now we have a perfectly round circle. Now let's give that a lavender color. So you can click on, if your color swatches or your color panel is open, you can give them any color that's in your swatches. And you can go to this fill tool, which will show you the same thing, just in a smaller box. So now if we click off of that and we hit our V key, we have a purple circle. You can leave it like that. You can go into the, if you've got it highlighted in the layers panel, this is our ellipse. You can go into the FX and add shadows, or you can make it look pillow-like, or add glow and all the different things. You can bevel and emboss it. You can outline it. You can make it look 3D, all of these things here. So you can just play around with that to get the look that you want and the right numbers that you want in there, whether you want it in, this direction or that direction. And we're going to just leave this one because we're just working with a plain circle. But with it highlighted, if you will hit Control J, that will copy it. Now it doesn't look like it, but it copied it right over itself. So just click and drag the top copy over. Now what we want to do is we want to add an outline to this one. Let's make sure it's all lined up here. So what we're going to do is, with it highlighted, we're going to look up here, and we've got the fill and the stroke, and then this line with a red slash through it that says none. What we're going to do is we're going to click on that, and if you will look here, you can make it a straight line, a dotted line, or you can freehand it, a textured line. But what we want to look at is the width, and let's make this one a 1 point. So just type in the number 1 and hit enter. Now if you click over and click off, you can see it has an outline. But let's give it a wider outline. So let's just click on it and let's give it a 5. So go back to your width and just type in 5. Now, if you click off, that's given us this dark black line here. But we don't want it to be black. So we're going to click on it. And this is your fill, and this is going to be what they call the stroke. So we want to go up here to the top of the left-hand side, and we want to click on stroke, and you can see it's black. So we want to give it a deeper purple. So let's click on our deeper purple. Now if you click off of it, you can see it's got this wider line, and you can make them any color, totally opposite colors. We can go in here and make the fill is that light purple. We can go in here and make this a green, and we can click off. And you can use this, you can make the depth anything you want. You can make it to where it will go, we've got it at a 5. You can put it at a there's a 20. Let's go somewhere in the middle here. Let's just go with a 13 and hit enter. So that just, what it does is it starts from the outside, doesn't change the size of your circle. It starts from the outside edge and builds that stroke line in. So you can make it as thick or as thin as you want, or just like I said with this one, it says none. So if it says a number in here, you can slide the bar all the way to the 0, or you can just type in the number 0 here. So now you have your circles. So the next thing we have is the same thing on these two. This is the exact same size, the exact same color, but this one does not have a stroke fill and this one does. And the same thing with these two. This one has a very narrow one. This one has a thicker one. Now, one of the other things is stars. So if you want to create something, let's go back to our page here. If you want to create a reading journal or something that you want to let people rate how they're feeling that day, you can give it a 5-star rating. So we go back again to our tool, and we're going to come down here and we're going to use the star tool. And you can make these as big or as little as you want. And so we're going to make these fairly small. And I did make that one exactly right. So it's 0.625 wide and tall. Now we don't need all of this coloring in it. So we're going to go up here to stroke. And we're going to click on this white circle with the red dash. That means no color. So we're going to take that color out. We're going to click on the 13 up here. We're going to drag it to 0. That takes that line out. We need to put it back in at a 0.5. We want it to be just enough to be able to tell it's the outline of a star. Then we're going to go to fill, and we're going to click on the no color. So now when you, oops, where did it go? Let's get this. We're going to highlight it again, and we've got to give this a color. So we're just going to give it a black color. and a 0.5. So it's just a tiny little outline around it. Now to make your 5 stars, all you need to do is click on the line of the star to get it highlighted and hit Control J. And that makes a copy right on top of it. And we're going to drag it across. We want those red lines at the top and the bottom to make sure it's perfectly centered with the other one. Now, once you've hit that second one, don't click off of it. Leave it highlighted there and hit Control J. And that gives us 3. Command J gives us 4. Command J gives us 5. And they are all lined up perfectly. Now, if we want them smaller, let's click and drag across them to select them all. And then we can make them smaller so they will fit on a small little line in your planner. And there you have 5 stars. Now, if you want them to be gold, you can go back into each one and go to the fill, and we'll give it a gold color. And just click on each one, fill, and add the color that you want. Oops, I moved that one. Let's edit and undo that. Now we want to add the fill color. And there you have 5 gold stars. So that's a very quick and simple way that, like I said, using Control and J, if you have an item highlighted, just like this one, if you have it highlighted and you can hit Control J the first time, that copies it. Then if you leave it like this and don't click off of it, if I hit Command or Control J again, it would put it in the exact same spot next to it. But since we don't have our paper that large, but this gives you an idea. So now these are all perfectly lined up. They just look a little different. So we're going to cut this one. And you can make any of these shapes. So, you know, depending on what shape you want, you can add a pie tool, make a pie chart. There's just all kinds of them in here that you can scroll through. There's even a cog. So if you want to hit, you know, if you need to, somebody needs to hit settings or to go somewhere to do something, this can be an icon in your planner. So play around with the shapes and get kind of familiar with them. The main ones that you're going to use is going to be the rectangle tool and the circles, the tape, which is just a small rectangle. And like I said, changing the color is from, as long as this one's highlighted, you can change the color from this menu, or you can change it from here, which shows the same menu, just in a smaller window. Just depends on which one you feel comfortable scrolling towards. I will normally use this one, but there are times when it's a little difficult to tell what I'm changing the color of. So this one tells you definitely this is for the fill, for the center, and this is the outline, the stroke. So that's pretty much for creating shapes, and you can create all the kinds of shapes that you want with that tool. You can do cutouts and all kinds of fun things. We'll get into that in a later lesson. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will be happy to answer them. And I will see you in the next video.